Hi, it's Jeremy Shatton from An Earful, and welcome back to Discover Music with An Earful. This is monthly listening for August 2025. It was a busy month musically. There were so many records released, many great ones. I also saw a few concerts. We're going to get to all of that. Before we do, I will just mention one loss we suffered in August was Bobby Whitlock. Now, if you're not familiar with that name, he was a keyboard player, singer, songwriter, guitarist, just an all-around musician. He was a key part of Derek and the Dominos, who released that one album, mostly known for the fact that Eric Clapton and Duane Allman are both on it, which is obviously important. But if you want more of what you get from Derek and the Dominos, don't go to Clapton's later career. Maybe his first solo album, but it's very muted there. But if you want to hear the passion and explosive rock and roll that you hear on Derek and the Dominos, laced with a tenderness and a bittersweet quality, you're going to get that from Bobby Whitlock's solo albums. I have 3 out of 4 of the Bobby Whitlock 70s solo albums. Bobby Whitlock and Raw Velvet, both from 1972. And then I have Rock Your Socks Off from 1976. They're all great. The first 2 may be a little bit better than the 4th. I haven't heard the 3rd yet. I need to get that. They are so good. There's also a nice compilation called Where There's a Will, There's a Way that will give you a fine overview of what he was up to, but it's all about layered keyboards, guitars, drums, and he worked with the best musicians around. Clapton is on there, George Harrison, Jim Gordon, people from Derek and the Dominos, and Delaney and Bonnie. It's just a wonderful sound. It's a peak of the 70s. And you have to understand that Bobby Whitlock was born in poverty to a 15-year-old mother. One of his most beautiful qualities, I think, was his gratitude. He was always grateful to be there. He was grateful to be playing with Delaney and Bonnie and Friends, with Duane Allman and Eric Clapton and George Harrison. Then he was on All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. He played piano on Beware of Darkness, which was just used to fine effect in the excellent horror film Weapons. Bobby Whitlock was a true rock and roll survivor. He played every Tuesday night in Austin for years with his wife, Coco Carmel. Somehow I always managed to miss him the few times I went to Austin. But man, I like Bobby Whitlock a lot. And like I said, if you want more of what you get from Derek and the Dominos, do not pass go. Go directly to Bobby Whitlock. He will be missed, but the music will last forever. When we come back, I'm going to talk about a few concerts. Every hot live summer is a little bit different, and this year was distinguished by the fact that I did not attend any shows at Central Park Summer Stage or Brick Celebrate Brooklyn. The programming didn't work for me, or some concerts were canceled in Central Park due to political disagreements, which was not a nice thing to see. And I was considering going to see Wet Leg in Central Park, which is actually next week, but I was hesitant to spend over $60 on a ticket for a show that could get rained on. And I got lucky because I'm seeing Wet Leg the night after they play Central Park at the Brooklyn Paramount, which is a new venue I've been excited to see. You'll hear about that in next month's podcast. But one concert organizer that I did get to see more than one concert by was Showbrain. They did that great show with Nodega in Washington Square Park. And then I went down to Tompkins Square Park on August 9th. They were having an all-day affair there. But the way my week was going, my weekend, I could not spend the entire day there. But my daughter and I headed down to see The Thing. She had not yet seen The Thing. I was lucky to see them at Mercury Lounge earlier in the summer, but she really wanted to see them. And we managed to catch The Thing, and before them, Dion Lunadon. He's an interesting New Zealand-born musician who was in the band A Place to Bury Strangers for a while. He's done a lot over his time, and the dude rocks, okay? He's playing his guitar with a chain. He was just very, very passionate. He had a lot of melodic sense to his songs, too. I really, really liked it. It was fun. I haven't listened to any of his recordings yet, but I will. I'll check them out. And then came The Thing. And I noticed even a subtle shift between when I saw them at Mercury Lounge and now, that they're almost just even more forward facing and people friendly and just doing stuff together on stage that was so much fun to watch. They're on the last song, the three frontmen, bass, guitar, and all, they all sing. They all got around one microphone. The crowd was going crazy. I'm convinced they made new fans, and it was just such a wonderful thing to see. Their third album had just come out, and you'll hear more about that later. But you got to see The Thing. It's just so much fun. And kudos to Showbrain for putting together these great outdoor free festivals, just one day here and there, and it's so much fun. They do a great job. Next, on August 19th, I headed to one of the other great summer festivals in New York City, which is Time Spans. This is an season-defining series of concerts that just goes on for days and days, and every night you want to be there. But I can only make it to 2 this time around. I got to see Talia Ensemble performing Chaya Cherniwin's The Divine Thawing of the Core. This is a 2025 piece given its U.S. premiere by Talia, and it was a big band too. There were people on stage I did not recognize, which is surprising. But when you have 6 flute players, I mean, you're talking about executive director Adrian Morjan. I talked to him after the show and I said, you must have been spinning your Rolodex to make sure all these seats were filled. They just had a great group. 6 flutes, 6 oboes, 6 trumpets, trombone, tuba, piano, percussion, and 3 cellos. And then we had Claire Chase as a contrabass flute soloist. You know, she is just one of the greatest musicians alive. And she plays that thing, makes it look easy, like you or I would play a penny whistle. She knows what she's doing with every aspect of it, from percussive clicks to elephantine-like shrieks. Oh man, this was a great piece. It was expansive. It was also spare and skeletal at times. I really hope to get to hear it again because it just sounded so fascinating. There was one moment that really caught my attention when the cellists down-tuned their instruments and played alongside muted trumpets for a haunting effect. There's some aspect to the piece that's like a traditional concerto where the soloist is both pitted against and joined by the other players. There was one moment where the flute took off on a solo that was just almost bitter sounding, and then it started repeating notes, just kind of trying to break through while everything was flying apart around it. It seemed to get the orchestra on its side through a 3-note riff, but it soon lost ground entirely, overtaken by a massive flood of sound from all the instruments. Everything was very well used. This wasn't just more musicians for the sake of more musicians. Chaya Cherniwin is a master arranger and orchestrator, and it's a great piece. Next, I went back to Time Spans on August 23rd to hear Nohei Banda perform Stephen Kazuo Takasugi's Il Teatro Rosso, the recording of which was on my top 25 for 2025 so far. And it was so cool to finally see what is going on in these sounds. And it suddenly made me realize that time is an essential element of music, but that doesn't mean that individual notes must have duration. If you put enough sequences of staccato sounds together, you will be moving through time. And that's what Takasugi does here. Then there's a video behind them while they're playing that shows them playing it at a different time in a very stylized theatrical performance. But the live performance was also stylized and theatrical. And then there's the fixed media aspect of things where they're playing along with electronics and recordings of their own instruments. It's a wild piece. It's maximalist, made out of little tiny bits, like I said, little shards of sound. I just love it. That was time spans for this year. I can't wait for next year. I think it's going to be another good one. A great way to end the summer. Although summer isn't really over until September 20th or 21st, right? So there'll be some more Hot Live Summer next time. When we come back, we're going to talk about recordings. There's a lot of music to get to this month, so let's get right to it, starting with Rina Esmail's Exaltations. This is a brief 3-movement work that she wrote to fit in between works by Gabrieli and Bruckner. It's for double choir and brass quintet, a wonderful combination of sounds. She also weaves in music from her heritage using Hindustani melodic structures, rags, and it really just is uniquely beautiful and inspiring. Let's hear a little bit from Movement 1, Hosanna. Rina Esmail, performed by the Cathedral Choral Society, conducted by Stephen Fox. Isn't that just literally glorious? Can't you see yourself waking up to that every morning and just greeting the day? Exaltations by Rina Esmail, performed by the Cathedral Choral Society with Stephen Fox conducting. The featured soloists are Caitlin Grace Jackson, soprano, Matthew Newhouse, tenor, and Arissa Lee Burrs, mezzo-soprano. A really wonderful recording. Next we have the debut solo album from an Irish double bassist and composer named Kaiman Gilmore. That name may not be familiar to you, but he has worked with just about everyone, including Sam Amidon, Lisa Hannigan, Dirty Projectors, and even Boy Genius. So you've heard him, and he knows his way around the studio, knows his way around composition and collaboration, including Kate Ellis on cello and Lavinia Meyer on harp, alongside his double bass and DX7. Several of the tracks are called Segway, and the other ones are called MVE, and they're all numbered. So we're going to hear an excerpt from MVE1 by Kaiman Gilmore from his album Black Gate. that's just a cool combination of sounds? Kaiman Gilmore's MVE1 from his album Black Gate. Next, we have an album I've been waiting for since 2012. That's when I saw Maya Beiser's cello opera, Elsewhere, which included Missy Mazzoli's Salt, a song cycle based on the story of Lot's wife from the Bible. But Lot's wife doesn't really exist as her own character, and that's what Maya, Missy Mazzoli, and lyricist Aaron Cressida Wilson give to her in this wonderful piece. In my review, I said, I hope her next recording is Salt. And that, like I said, was January 2013. Well, we finally have it. She's put out an album called Salt, and it's a wonderful combination of music. It includes Missy Mazzoli's Salt, and also works by John Tavener, Meredith Monk, C.W. Glick, Clarice Jensen, Claudio Monteverdi, Y. Admon, and Henry Purcell. So it's a really interesting combination of sounds and ideas. Let's hear a little bit of Salt, which is sung by Helga Davis, who I heard sing it in its premiere way back in 2012. As I've mentioned before, Helga is just a wonderful artist. We went to high school together. I feel privileged for the time I was able to spend with her there and hear her sing from the stage of the Walden High School. Here we have her singing Salt 4 for voice, amplified cello, and electronics from Maya Beiser's album Salt.
What did you do in prison?
Through graves, identifying their loved ones by scraps of...
Really beautiful stuff from Maya Beiser with Helga Davis on vocals. Missy Mazzoli composed Salt, and that's the name of the album, with lots of other music on there. Salt also features lyrics by Aaron Cressida Wilson. It's a remarkable piece, and I think it's actually found its true home in this album rather than in Elsewhere when I saw it back in 2012 at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. This is probably my favorite Maya Beiser project since The Day in 2018, which was an absolutely incredible record. Next we have a duo calling themselves Translations. Arngerur Maria Arnadottir and Una Sveinbjarnadottir, Icelandic if you can't tell. Una is a violinist and composer. Arngerur is an organist and composer and also sings, but together they are improvising here between the two of them. And on the track we're going to hear Skylight 1, they are joined by Scully Sverrisson on bass and David Poor Jonsson on piano. Let's hear Skylight 1 from the album Hick by Translations. Skylight One by Translations from their album Hik. Hik is an Icelandic word meaning hesitation, but I hear little hesitation in these gorgeous improvisations that have just been shaped into a beautiful sonic structure. Really, really nice album. I say get to it. And with that, we will take a brief break to reset before some more electronic realms are explored. And I am back. In 2023, Talk Ensemble celebrated their 10th anniversary with a 2-night Swoon Fest. And swoon I did when I attended on night 2 and heard Natasha Deal's Somewhere Beautiful. This was a 3-piece work consisting of Somewhere Beautiful, Untitled Art Piece, and The God-Fearing Woodsman. All of those pieces are now on a remarkable album called Somewhere Beautiful. So cool to have this. The God-Fearing Woodsman is a really wild work with a very intriguing approach to storytelling. The album version also includes a cover, very unusual cover as you can imagine, of Tom Waits' Tell Me. As she says, it relates abstractly and concretely to the preceding 6 tracks. It makes for a really satisfying listen throughout. We're going to start right at the beginning with an excerpt from opening track Universal Love, Trademark. Yeah, there's a little TM on there. So this is Universal Love, composed and performed by Natasha Deals. Natasha Deals taking you Somewhere Beautiful from her album of the same name, that is Universal Love, Trademark. When I reviewed the concert, I remarked that she has playful and edgy qualities, which I love. It's just great. Get to the whole album ASAP. Our next album comes from Sophie Birch and Antonina Nowacka. This is a beautiful recording made in the Polish countryside, direct to tape on a Nagra tape machine. The 2 musicians brought with them zithers, harps, classical guitars, and then they added Yamaha DX7, there it is again, Mini Moog, vibraphone, percussion, steel drum, pipe organ, and vocals. You can also get the sense of the natural environment. The name of the album is Hiraeth, which is a Welsh word not unlike the Portuguese word saudade. Hiraeth means nostalgia, homesickness, longing. It's interesting that English doesn't have a word that quite nails those concepts the way saudade and Hiraeth do. Hiraeth is spelled Hiraeth. It's a cool word that I learned from this album. Let's hear an excerpt from Suosan from late in the record, Sophie Birch and Antonina Nowacka, right here on Discover Music with an Earful. A little slice of heaven from Sophie Birch and Antonina Novotska. It's making me feel Kharkiv, even though I've never been there. It's making me feel a longing and a homesickness for the environment that they create. All I have to do is play the record again, though, and I can revisit it. Next, we have Andrew Staniland, who engages with nature in a different way, an electronic composer and musician. He is using technology that engages with the human body on some of this album, which is called The Laws of Nature. He's using something called the Jade Digital Musical Instrument, which was developed at the Memorial Electroacoustic Research Lab. The EEG mode uses a sensing headband that people can wear. So he has dancers wearing these things, and he's sonifying their brainwaves in real time. Let's hear Dancer Portrait number 3 by Andrew Staniland. Cool stuff, right? Dancer Portraits, Dancer number 3 by Andrew Staniland. Reminds me a little of that vocal track from Brian Eno's Music for Airports. It's got a kind of spacey, dislocating feel to it. I don't know what the dancers were doing to make it happen, but it works for me. Next, we're going to hear something quite a bit more active, namely Jorge Espinal's fascinating and fun record, Bombos y Sinceros. Espinal is a Peruvian guitarist, improviser, electronic architect of sound who now lives in Buenos Aires. He came back from a 16-day European tour and was inspired, went into the studio, recorded this whole album. Bombos y Sinceros refers to 2 essential elements of Latin American percussion, bass drums and cowbells. You will hear some rhythm on this for sure. Let's hear the last track on the album, Adobo y Soplete by Jorge Espinal. wild stuff from Jorge Espinal, Adobo y Soplete. Adobo, of course, is a marinade, and soplete means blowtorch. I saw a quote when I was looking that up, and it said, if we had half a day in a blowtorch, I guess as a kind of phrase, like, how long would it take us to get this done? Or could we do this? If we had half a day in a blowtorch, well, if Jorge Espinal had half a day in a blowtorch, he'd probably make another album. Great stuff. Get to it. Bombos y Sinceros. And look him up on YouTube. The way he does this stuff live is really fun to watch. Next, we have a 30-minute improvisation from the duo that calls itself Arthur King. That's Chris Avitabile and Peter Walker. They performed this live on the radio on a show called Ned's Mystery Machine on KXLU 88.9 FM. So check this out. You've got Avitabile with the auto harp, melodica, guitar, bass, and percussion. Walker has the Roland CR5000 and a melodica. And it goes in some interesting places. We're just going to hear a little of it right here, right now on Discover Music with an Earful. Fun stuff. Ned's Mystery Machine Volume 1 from Arthur King. I think this is a good time to take a break. You gather your thoughts, I'll gather mine, and then we'll combine them into a musical mind meld in the realms of rock and pop and folk and country and Americana and post-punk. It's a bounty of music coming your way when we come back. And I am back. Our first album for this part comes from Bailey RP. Bailey Panzeca emailed me and called me AE, which I really liked. She said, "Hi AE, just wanted to share this brand new album out today with you." And that was August 1st. This is one of the first albums I listened to on August 1st. And it's really cool. She calls it dreamy glitch pop. That's fine. On Instagram, she calls it beep boop computer music, but they're really just good songs, very heartfelt, with an overlay of glitch and production and technology, which reminded me a little bit of Katy Day, but it's quite different. So let's give a listen to You Win by Bailey RP from her album _Everything. Really cool stuff from Bailey RP. I like how she builds the mood and then drops into the song. Really nice. You Win from her album Underscore Everything. She has also just released an album called Everything Reimagined, which has several of these songs in different form. So she's kind of remixing herself. I went down a little rabbit hole. I don't know why. Bailey Panzeka, for some reason the name stuck in my head. And I went on Facebook and I found somebody named Bailey Panzeka, who I think is the same person, who seems to be making a video game about the Cambrian era underwater, or no, the pre-Cambrian, and making electronic music as Waterbug, which you can also find on Spotify. And those are really cool and fun little electronic tracks. If you want to support her work, go on Facebook, look up Bailey Panzeka, and she's looking for people to help make this video game. Moving on to Professor Girlfriend. This is a band consisting of Anna Wiesner, who is the composer and lyricist, Charles Muller, an engineer, producer, and multi-instrumentalist. He plays guitar and bass on the album, and Charlotte Mundy, vocalist. That's what got me to press play on this, because Charlotte Mundy is one of the greatest singers alive, mostly known for her work in Talk Ensemble, and several members of Talk Ensemble appear on this album as well. Laura Cox on flute, Madison Greenstone, clarinet, Marina Kifferstein, violin. So great. The drums, however, are by a guy named Cameron Lacrone, who I never heard of. And he's really good. You're going to hear him on this track, which is part of the song cycle that makes up most of the album, My Mother in Love. So we're going to hear My Mother in Love, Spare Parts, from the Professor Girlfriend album, My Mother in Love, The Summer Sessions. So much fun to hear Charlotte Mundy go a little bit wild there at the end of Spare Parts from the My Mother in Love song cycle by Anna Wiesner. That's Professor Girlfriend, and their album My Mother in Love, The Summer Sessions. It's a really cool record. And wasn't I right about Cameron Lacrone on the drums? So good. Next, we're going to hear another artist who is fluid between genres, Darian Donovan Thomas. A year ago, I featured his A Room with Many Doors Night album on this very podcast and talked about it in a song for Friday on the Substack and everything. Great record. Now he has followed it up, as promised, with A Room with Many Doors Day. And I hate to say it, but he is doing exactly what you think he would, in the sense that it's a brighter, poppier, funner album than Night. And we're going to hear one of the most pop-friendly songs on the album. It's called Oh No. Check it out from Darian Donovan Thomas.
I can't deny. She discussed theater and opera and dancing and building her set designs. And y'all got excited when you found out that you both headed this summer to Darmstadt. Hearing y'all talk together, I knew I couldn't compete with this. Oh no, what's happening? Quilt up the pain in a song. Why is this something that hurts me? Let's talk about you for the rest of this song. Well, you are an artist I admire who's getting his doctorate degree. And you said you're fine, but to the straight, I guess this is what that means. And you told me you also have a girlfriend back in Chicago. She seems great, but I guess it takes telling me to leave while holding to his sleeve, despite months of talking to me versus hours of blossoming. She for an infatuation to break. And oh no, what's happening? Cauterize the wound with the sun. Told me maybe you should go.
It's catchy, creative, clever, heartfelt. It's Darian Donovan Thomas, Oh No, from his album A Room with Many Doors, Day. It's a really great album. Get to it. Next we have an original motion picture soundtrack by the UK band Idols. I like this soundtrack a lot. It's gritty, it's very post-punk. Doesn't really sound like New York in the 90s, which is when Darren Aronofsky's Caught Stealing was supposed to take place. But maybe that's on purpose. I haven't seen the film yet, but I'm thinking he's trying to dislocate this in time and turn it more into a mythological story of a character going through troubles and traumas to get to heaven or something like that. Some of the reviews I've read suggested things like that. But taken on its own, the soundtrack is quite captivating. One thing I like about it is that it shines a light on some of the other members of Idols who I think sometimes get lost in the shuffle because lead singer Joe Talbot is such a presence. So listen to the rhythm section on this song, which is called Flushing, Queens. I kind of love it that my mom's home neighborhood, where she grew up, now has an Idols song named after it. Flushing, Queens from the Caught Stealing soundtrack by Idols with Rob Simonson. Stuff, right? Idols with Rob Simonson, Flushing, Queens from the Caught Stealing soundtrack. And that's Adam Devonshire on bass and John Beavis on drums. Don't they sound great? I love it. So I'll see the movie sometime and figure out if the soundtrack fits or it doesn't fit. There are some vocal tracks on the album as well, including a quite unusual cover of Police and Thieves, the Junior Murvin song that was also covered by The Clash. We're going to go now from Bristol, UK to Auckland, New Zealand for the Beths' new album, Straight Line Was a Lie. I've always liked their albums, especially the title tracks. Future Me Hates Me was a great song, and Expert in a Dying Field was a great song. But this is the first album of theirs where I really felt it all the way through. And I think that's partly because there's a great deal of variety here. from the title track is once again fantastic. Straight Line Was a Lie. Excellent song. And then there's a gorgeous ballad, Mother Pray For Me. Just absolutely beautiful. Elizabeth Stokes is the singer-songwriter in the band. She also plays guitar and is joined by Jonathan Pierce on that instrument. Bass is Benjamin Sinclair. Drums and cymbals, it says, Tristan Deck. Usually those things go together, so good for you, Tristan, I guess. But the song we're going to hear is not the title track, but the last song, Best Laid Plans. I like this one. It has a little rhythmic flexibility to it that they don't always have in their other songs, and I dig it. So let's hear Best Laid Plans by the Beths from their album Straight Line Was a Lie. Best Laid Plans by the Beths from their album Straight Line Was a Lie. Not only did they write a great title track, but that's a great way to end an album. I love those lyrics they're repeating. That's kind of the psychedelic breakdown that ends the song. To break, to heal, to long, to feel a different gravity. To feel a different gravity. It's really, really beautiful. Great stuff from Elizabeth Stokes and the Beths. Now we're going to swing back around the globe to Nashville, Tennessee. Marissa Nadler, who has been making records for over 20 years and has just released her 10th album, New Radiations. I really came on board with her in 2018 with her album For My Crimes. I got to see her in concert, I think maybe it was the next year, at MoMA PS1, and she was mesmerizing. So good. Really a talented songwriter, guitarist. Just like her stuff a lot, and this new album is beautiful. We're going to hear an excerpt from Light Years from New Radiations by Marissa Nadler, and I'm going to see if you think the same thing I think after you hear the opening part of the song.
Back in the day, you were all the rage, and you could still hypnotize her. Rockets and planes, and through hurricanes, fused to the sight of her fire. Used to see light years inside her. Used to be right there beside her. You knew the way. You numbered the days, cruising the night, tried to find her. And you tried to erase all the x-rays you took of her, no reminder. Used to see light years.
Light Years by Marissa Marissa Nadler from her album New Radiations. I hear a bit of early T-Rex from the first album where Mark Bolan changed it from Tyrannosaurus Rex to T-Rex. A song like Diamond Meadows, just that beautiful flowing melody, kind of a slight air of mystery. Really great stuff from Marissa Nadler. Love it. And it's interesting because there was recently a movie put out, I haven't seen it yet, about the Hal Wilner, somewhat sad Hal Wilner project, Angel-Headed Hipster. I don't even like that name, which was a tribute to Mark Bolan as a songwriter. So I sort of hear that influence here, and I feel like this is the right way to do it, instead of having a pop singer from the day try to interpret one of his songs, which is what Wilner did on that collection. There's one or two good ones, but it was not at his usual level of like Amarcord Nino Rota or Lost in the Stars for Kurt Weill. It's too bad. Rest in peace, Hal Wilner. Next we have another Nashville band, although via Atlantic City, New Jersey, which is where Daniel Donato was born, but he's now firmly in the Nashville firmament. Daniel Donato's Cosmic Country. I really love their last couple of albums, and they have a new one out. It's called Horizons, and it's just great. They let it rip. There's an almost prog precision to how he approaches his songs, and there's nothing better than when he stretches out and just plays his guitar like nobody's business. So check out the song Chore, which is definitely not that. Daniel Donato's Cosmic Country, Chore from Horizons.
That's not the all the season will change the soul.
Chore by Daniel Donato's Cosmic Country. In addition to prog and bluegrass and country, I think there's a little bit of disco in Donato's Cosmos. Fun song. I still really want to see them live, but you should definitely get to the playlist for this episode and hear the entire 11-minute track. From Nashville, we now go to Brooklyn and the band Sister. That's Sister with a period, the project of Ceci Sturman, Hannah Prusinski, also known as H. Pruz, and James Chrisman. Here they're joined really as a full band member by Felix Walworth of Told Slant and Florist fame, a fantastic drummer, an exploratory synthesist. I love their stuff. And this album is just absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful songwriting, beautiful production. You're going to hear some great guitar in this song, which is called Piece of Silver from Two Birds by Sister. probably could have included more of their gorgeous voices in that excerpt, but I just love that explosion. It's cathartic. There's deep emotions in this song, Piece of Silver by Sister from their album Two Birds. The lyrics in the second verse just caught me right away. Just last night I dreamt I saw you pass me in a crowd. It's timely and no different now that no one is around. It's painful like a family, like an old smell, like a ghost. Like the way you used to choose me like an old and precious stone. And you hide a piece of silver in the conversation. That's got power to it. And speaking of power, we're next going to go to The New Eves. This will go down as one of the great debut albums of our time and definitely of 2025. The New Eve is Rising by The New Eves. They are from the UK. They are channeling something from medieval times, something from the slits and the raincoats. It's just fantastic. It feels like a movement is starting. Just so great. We're going to hear an excerpt from Rivers Run Red by The New Eves from their album The New Eve is Rising.
Is faded. Do not blush at my parade of flesh and blood. The seed and the serpent ask for repent. Rivers run red. The mouth of God has two tongues, one with a hiss. There is bliss to be found in wounds. Uncup your hands and light up the sleeping beast. When the story ends, the dawn is gold. Rivers run red. Rivers run red. Rivers run red. Rivers run red.
New Eves, Rivers Run Red from their album The New Eve is Rising. I'm sure they must put on a great show. I love the sense of ritual and myth that they conjure up. The lyrics in that song have some great lines. The mouth of God has two tongues, one with a hiss. There is bliss to be found in wounds. Uncup your hands and lie atop the sleeping beast. When the story ends, the dawn is gold. Wow. If you're in England right now, they're having a busy October there. I don't know when they're getting back to the US, but they have concerts in September and October all around England, so lucky you. Next, we're going to go to Bodega's latest album as their alter ego, Nodega. This is sort of the stripped down, hardcore side of their personality. It really sounds a lot like Bodega. It's just a little harder, a little faster. It still has that great sense of humor, social commentary. The name of the album is Rot in Helvetica. And we're going to hear the title track, Bodega as Nodega.
Someone is in charge and the logo's new. They want you to think that it's not me or you. Someone is in charge, but I can't make out. All the tongues in my mouth, they all echo and tell. Begin and begin, engines at the revolution. Again. Begin and begin, for the time's not changing. Someone is in charge and the surcharge grew. The minimal style will maximize you. And white gallery or prestigious plane, contemplate space and it wipes your brain. Begin and begin, the status quo is sensitive. Again. Begin and begin, that's why the time's not changing. All the truth
Helvetica by Nodega, or Bodega as they're usually known. And I wonder what they think of Comic Sans, because they sound pretty angry there about Helvetica. The album is a lot of fun, and they are one of the most fun bands you can see in concert. Keep an eye out for a tour date near you. We are next going to Florida, the band The Stargazer Lilies. This is the project of Kim Field, who sings, John Sepp, who does everything else. The name of the album is Love Pedals, Pedals. I think Sepp does love his pedals when he's unleashing those massive riffs in the song we're going to hear called Transmed. The entire song is just sweet reverie. Your state of glee is my transcendental medication from the Stargazer.
Transcendental medication.
Transmed by the Stargazer Lilies from their album Love Pedals. They've been doing this for over a decade, and I feel like they just keep getting better and better. Great, great stuff. And our final album, as promised, is The Thing by The Thing. This is the third album for these Brooklyn indie rock stalwarts. Fantastic live band, fantastic songwriters, just a lot of fun. You feel a kind of brotherhood when you watch them play, which is really just heartening. Here's The Thing was the first album. The Thing is the second album. And the third album is just The Thing. We're going to hear Insane by The Thing.
Have you ever been dreaming that you're better? Never a word about the weather. Told her I loved her before I met her, and I do. Stop my mind for a little pleasure. Tossing time to dig for treasure. Although my love is hard to measure, it's for you. I'm going insane. Half of my dime goes to the circus. Everything's fine up on the surface. How many times until you're certain that it's you? I'm running around to find a purpose, asking the preacher for a sermon. I see a demon in the curtain of my eye. Always looking for a ride. I think I'm going insane.
Insane by The Thing. I love that electric 12-string sound. So great when they start referencing like Ticket to Ride. So clever, creative, and fun. Just fantastic song, fantastic album. That's our last album, but I do want to mention one other record which I was not able to get on the show. It's a Beautiful Place by Water From Your Eyes. Absolutely fantastic. I've had it on repeat. It's really, really great. Highest recommendation for It's a Beautiful Place by Water from Your Eyes. Man, they are so, so good. And before I leave you, I will just say one thing, which is there's recently been some discussion about music journalism losing its edge. We're not being critical enough. And the fact of the matter is, I don't really have time to deliver bad reviews for things. If you want to know my opinion on big records that everybody's talking about that I'm not talking about, I guess you could ask me at a party. I might talk about it. But I'm not going to write about what I think of some big pop album that I don't think is very good. I don't see any point to that. And if a band that I really like, that I think is a sincere, great band of artists trying to make their way in this ridiculous world, and they put out something that disappoints me, I might mention it in passing, but I'm not going to go in and dissect all the reasons why it didn't work for me. I know they're doing their best. They're doing what they want to do. I just don't see the need to be snarky. And the funny thing is that the article was written by Kela Fasana, who I'll never forget when Ashley Simpson was on Saturday Night Live and delivered an absolute disaster of a performance. I mean, it was not even professional, regardless of what you think of her voice or the song or the songwriting or the production. It was just, it was a disaster. And he got down on people for saying it was a disaster. So I'm like, I know that was like 20 years ago or something. I probably shouldn't even remember it, but these things stick in your mind. So I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Just spread love, spread the word about great music, and eventually all the bad music will get pushed under by the crushing tide of history. And that is my soapbox. Thank you so much for listening. All the music you heard has been ethically sourced from the artists and labels. Many thanks to them. You can find links to everything in the show notes, including a Spotify playlist. The interstitial tracks are by me, circa 1984 to 1986, with Andy Gilchrist on occasional guitar. Thanks as always to the Droplets, Holly Miranda, Am Parsley, and Chris Maxwell for my theme song. You can find me at anearful.substack.com. All the socials, find, follow, share, tell me what you think. I'd love to hear from you. That is the only way we can grow this movement to reveal the finest music of our time. See you next month. This has been Jeremy Shatton for An Earful.